everybody, this is the Platinum Knight here with another double first impressions video, and today's double first impressions is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I'm gonna talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth first because I have a lot to say. When it comes to video game remakes, I think it's important I should mention I never played the original FF7 because I'm not a fan of old school turn-based RPG games, but I have seen a lot of playthroughs. When it comes to the first Final Fantasy VII remake, I loved it. The gameplay is so much fun. Even though I didn't really get the story all that much, the characters is what won me over. So when I first started seeing trailers of Rebirth, naturally I got very hyped, and it seemed like an automatic game of the year for me. I was intrigued how it was going to go open world and how ambitious it looked. It took me a very long time to beat this game after 6 months from March all the way to August. And what are my thoughts on this game? Well, I'm gonna start with the positives first. The gameplay and the combat system is still really fun. I like how it's a hybrid between a hack and slash game with turn-based elements. The graphics are incredible, the environments are beautiful and interesting, making this world all more gravitating. The soundtrack is amazing. Like the previous part, what really makes me invested in this universe is the characters. I love the characters. While familiar and iconic, these remakes know how to treat their characters appropriately with such respect and faithful passion. My favorite character this time around is Aerith. I love her. Not only is she pretty like a flower, she is so supportive, caring, overly positive and protective. She knows how to treat others fairly with kindness and the type that always knows the right things to say at any given situation. I also love Tifa. She is still badass and very beautiful. I'm still not the biggest fan of Cloud. I think he's a little too stern, and I was really hoping to get more emotion out of him in this installment. And in a way I did, but it's only at the very end of the game. Hopefully he opens up a lot more in the next part. Surprisingly, Rebirth gives a lot of great character development even for Barret and Red. For Barret, we finally get to see what his life was like before he lost his arm by exploring his hometown, and making him all more relatable. Ironically, he shows way more emotion than Cloud. I also like Red. While he shows up at the end of the first part, the game does a really great job giving him a lot more lore and backstory. I also always found it funny when he gets treated like a dog. As for Yuffie, I admit at first I thought that she was a little bit annoying. Keep in mind, I didn't play the DLC in the first game, but after a while of getting to know her and finding out what happens to her in the DLC, she really grew on me, and her abilities are very OP. Okay, now it's time that I get into the criticisms, cause there is a lot of it. As much as I do like the combat, my only criticism is the parry mechanic. Now I'm terrible at parrying like in most hack and slash games, but the problem here is you still can't parry whenever you want. Let's say you're attacking, alright? If an animation is playing while attacking, you can't parry. It's not like in Stellar Blade where you can parry at any time. So that's why I would hardly parry, and whenever I try to parry, it wouldn't work and I would just get hit instead. Hopefully Square Enix changes that in the next game. One of the biggest criticisms I have with Rebirth is all the filler. The filler is what really slows this game down, mainly the mini-games. Now, mini-games are not uncommon. It's okay to have mini-games in your game as long as they're simple to understand. The problem with most of these mini-games is they have their own gameplay mechanics. Some of them even have their own RPG variants. I've seen some people defend the mini-games by saying they're optional. No, that's not true. There are some mini-games that are optional, but there's also some that insert themselves into the main story. Some mini-games were okay, and some were just downright frustrating that I didn't even understand. You have to spend hours learning how to master them. Even the optional mini-games give out really good prizes, and you feel like you don't want to miss out. There are even mini-games that have very important cutscenes that really should not be optional, and it should have been in the main story. I had to go on YouTube so many times to look out how to even play some of these mini-games. Let me give you some hypothetical scenarios. It would almost be like playing GTA, but then all of a sudden you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Or imagine playing Assassin's Creed and then you're suddenly playing Dungeons and Dragons. Or how about playing Dark Souls and then you're playing Monopoly? It's a game within a game. You just don't do it, man. The point in a mini-game is to take a break from the main game if you want to in case you get tired. Even then, some of these mini-games have awful controls. Remember, I played this on PS5 and I would always turn off the motion controls. A couple more minor criticisms I have with Rebirth is the save system still sucks. Like in the first game, there is no multiple autosaves. I reached a really terrible part that drags on without being able to save it where you left off. Then I ended up dying and the game gives you a really confusing option. Do you want to start with the boss or do you want to start with the enemy? At first I thought the enemy was the boss, but nope. It turned out it was the previous boss that I already defeated. Then when I tried to go back to where I left off, I accidentally reloaded my last save, which was a while ago, and I lost 2 hours of progress. No option to go forward or parts you have already beat. I don't know why Square Enix designed the save system to be this way or even give you the option to go that far back. Bottom line, save it very often. I still hate Chadley. I wanted to strangle him. Wasn't really a huge fan of Cait Sith either. At first I did like him, but I really hated his gameplay sections, especially when you're playing as him all by yourself. His mini games were terrible. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I'm also not a huge fan of his character either, especially at the end. What I liked about the first FF7 remake is it was linear and more straightforward. I don't think this game was meant to go open world. The open world aspect kinda felt like an excuse to make the game longer, but someone did inform me that that's how it was in the original Final Fantasy VII. If that's true, then at least it's faithful. I just liked the linear aspect better in the first game instead of open world. Getting back to the positives, I did like some of the new mechanics such as collecting materials and using them to craft things. I spent 140 hours into this game. A lot of it was me grinding and leveling up. Believe it or not, but this is the first gaming first impressions video that I have done for 2024. That's how long it took me to finish this game. But hey, that should pretty much be proof how entertaining this game really is. Square Enix has been complaining about underwhelming sales and numbers, but that's also what they said about Final Fantasy XVI. Now they're ending PlayStation's exclusivity deal and investing investing into porting their games onto other platforms, which is good because now Xbox and possibly Nintendo players are going to be able to enjoy some of these great games. For those of you who don't know, I actually just got into the Final Fantasy series, so I have only beaten the FF7 remake, Final Fantasy 16, and now Rebirth. If you were to ask me which one is my favorite Final Fantasy so far, I would still have to go with the first remake, then Final Fantasy 16, and I'm sorry, but Rebirth would have to be my third least favorite. One last thing I will say about Rebirth, again, no spoilers, but I had a feeling what was going to happen at the end. I knew it was going to happen because it happens in the original, and that ending, oh, it got me, guys. It got me. I was emotional. That ending was beautifully done, and I am happy to say I finally experienced it just like everybody else who did back in 1997. I'm still debating if this is gonna be my game of the year, but who knows? Maybe another game will take the cake. Now I am very much looking forward to the next installment. Okay, real quick I'm gonna talk about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, a Metroidvania game published by Ubisoft. The Pop series is one of those long-time running franchises that's definitely had its ups and downs. Then once when Ubisoft started making the Assassin's Creed series, it pretty much left the Pop series in the dust. Now that it's been a while, it's pretty cool how they are at least trying to revive this franchise. The Lost Crown is a very solid experience. You play as Sargon along with a team looking for their lost kidnapped leader. It's a reboot that has nothing to do with the previous games. One key addition for the Metroidvania genre is the memory tags for the map. Very useful. Even on normal mode, it can be quite challenging, but thankfully you can actually customize your difficulty, which is something that I have never seen in a video game. However, even if you're playing on easy mode, it can still be difficult, not by enemies or bosses. Believe it or not, the most challenging thing about this game is the parkour. There are so many traps such as spikes, axes, arrows, or just downright falling to your death. Some are optional, and some you can easily spend hours learning their patterns. Some where you can't even make one mistake. I have gotten really frustrated many times, so if you're looking for a side-scrolling challenge, then this is right up your alley. I still had a lot of fun killing and slashing enemies. It's cool how throughout the game you can unlock different powers such as a bow, switching dimensions, a grapple, double jumping, time shifting, key elements that help you gain access to the rest of the parts of the map. My only criticism towards this game is the lack of customization options. You use the same swords, which is the Quays and Leia. You can only upgrade your stuff. There's also not many outfits either. Thanks to the updates, it is cool how you can dress up in the Sands of Time outfit. Other than that, I still had some fun with this game. It was nice how I live streamed this game for my 29th birthday. It was the first game that I bought and beat of 2024, even before Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It was also the very first pop game that I have ever played. The only history I had with this series before this is watching my uncle also play Sands of Time on the GameCube. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is what it needs to be, and that is a good game. Unfortunately, it didn't sell well, so if you're craving for some old school Prince of Persia, then I highly recommend this. Now I am very curious about the Sands of Time remake. Alright everybody, that's it for this double first impressions video. That's it for my first impressions on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. If you enjoyed this video, then please be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Hit that notification bell for new videos. This has been your host, The Platinum Knight, and peace out everybody.